let's talk about aviation.
Yeah.
The reform that was brought into aviation under the PDP, the 16 years of PDP, I think you are in a better position.
Well, we reformed virtually everything. I mean, when I came to power in the aviation sector, and I was minister, the year before I came in, we had 5 crashes. 453 people died in the space of 1 year. 5 plane crashes. So for me, my mandate was basically safety and security. And when I came into that sector, I ensured that we had that. There wasn't one plane crash under my watch, and I'm the only Minister of Aviation in our history, literally, that not one crash has taken place under his watch. Not military, not private jet, not anything throughout the time that he was there. Because we did the research, we found out. And why? How did that happen? Because we took security and safety very, very seriously indeed. And we did the research, we discovered that usually when a new minister comes in, there's always a crash somewhere, somehow, after 3 months or so. But we had none throughout the period of time that I was there. And that's because we ensured that everybody, abided by the rules. Where the rules were not clear or where they were lax, we changed them. And we effected a new set of rules and regulations in terms of aviation and safety and so on and so forth. And in terms of accident investigation too, because what we discovered was that there was a lot of corruption there. Plane crashes or anything goes wrong, they will cover the whole thing up. The ministry would cover it. We set up a completely new agency, parastatal, called Accident Investigation Bureau, which I set up to investigate independent of the minister if anything goes wrong, and reporting direct to the presidency so that nothing will be covered up. There's so much to say about aviation. If you look at the reports of the Bellevue crash and so on and so forth, the NTSB reports, that's an American agency that has the right to come and investigate any crash, you will find that there are so many things that are frightening in terms of what really happened on the bus. And maybe we should not talk about what really caused these crashes now, but let me assure you that a lot of work was done to ensure that there wouldn't be a repeat performance of those things. And I think to that extent we're very successful. We reformed FAN, we reformed all the various parastatals and so on and so forth, and we did a lot of things. So many routes, international routes that we're applying today, we opened those routes. So many airlines, Dana and so on and so forth, we're the ones that gave them the opportunity and the licenses to fly. And of course we closed down the bad ones like ADC, Sosoliso and so on and so forth, those that refused to pay compensation after crashes. So we had, mine was a very, very tough regime, if you like, no nonsense regime, and we ensured that we got the right things done. I must say this, however, that the President Minister of Aviation, that is Hadi, he's a good friend of mine. He's somebody that I consider to be a man of integrity. I've known him for many years. We used to play polo together. And he's a good friend of mine. I will not say that he's not trying his best. And I will not condemn his efforts at aviation. Aviation is like a family. So, and any concerns I have concerning aviation today, I always channel through private channels because I know him and I know he's doing his best. But the problem that we have in this country today, generally in aviation and elsewhere, is just basically that we have a leadership that really doesn't know what it's doing. So you cannot compare what we have today to what we had at that time. And PDP did exceptionally well when it comes to aviation for the 8 years, at least for those years that Obasanjo was in power.
And the new international airport?
That was commissioned, well, PDP. Every single project in aviation, there's not one that was initiated by the present government. Not one. They're only commissioning and they're only completing what Obasanjo set in motion and what Jonathan built upon, and they are now commissioning some. That new airport was commissioned by Obasanjo. That is the one in Abuja. It was commissioned by Obasanjo. Everything was commissioned. Look at the MM2 in Lagos. That was commissioned by, but that is the private wing of Murtala Mohammed Airport, the one that's owned by Courtney, Babalaki and co. Again, we put that in place. And, virtually everything that you see in aviation was actually set in motion at that time. And we saw it all through. I had the privilege of actually commissioning the MM2, and I'm very proud of that. And there were so many other things. If you look at the satellite, a lot of people don't understand the problems we had with radar. Would you believe that when I came into office as a minister in 2005 or 2006, or whenever it was, the radar system we were using was the one that we were using in 1979, and it only covered a little bit outside Lagos. We had to change all that. In fact, there was no radar. Sorry, there was no radar. We were using Ghanaian radar. We now had to resurrect the one from 1979 to cover the Lagos area until we now brought in a very sophisticated radar system, which I commissioned, and I signed the contract for it. And it's now, it's been functional ever since. It covers every inch of Nigerian airspace. We didn't have that before we came in. If you look at the runway in the second runway, 18LI, I remember the name very well, in Lagos Airport. We're the ones that started that. I'm the one that commissioned that. I'm the one that built it. If you look at the runway in Port Harcourt Airport, if you remember, Port Harcourt was closed for about a year. I came in, we mobilized Julius Berger. They finished the thing, and it was commissioned about a month or two after we left office. So we did all these things and so much more. I'm very proud of our record, at least during the time that I was in office, and indeed during Obasanjo's era. Yes, there were challenges before I came in. There were monumental challenges in terms of safety, but we fixed that by the time that we left, and I'm very proud of it. I came in to do that, and we fixed it, and I'm very proud of that. And others have built on that since then.
I think the Jonathan's administration built on that.
They certainly did. They did very, very well. Like I said, though, there were still a few crashes and so on and so forth, but they also did well compared to what's going on today. And Jonathan was very, very effective when it came to aviation. He understood the importance of aviation, how it was that it affects the economy, it affects everybody, and therefore he was very, very liberal. I mean, in fact, he did some things that we couldn't do. There were issues of what you call the BASA fund, which we weren't allowed to access in our time. Our president said we couldn't access it, but Jonathan allowed his own minister to access the BASA fund, which again helped them. They had more resources to spend on the aviation sector, and they did very well in terms of the airports and so on and so forth. They built a lot of things down there. They built on that legacy, and that is, I'm very proud of that, and that's part of the PDP heritage, which a lot of people are running down up till today.
And just like the rail system is something that the PDP administration over.
Definitely.
According to former President Obasanjo, he said there was a 25-year plan.
Absolutely.
And
they put it in place, they set it in motion, they took it up to a certain point. Buhari simply came to commission it. And then he now claimed credit for it. It's unfair. There is not one infrastructure that you can name that was initiated by Buhari and the APC, that was set in motion by them, initiated by them, set in motion, and completed. Not one. I challenge them to tell us just one. Not one road was started by them that they've completed in the last 3.5 years. There's nothing at all that they have done that they can say they started and that they've commissioned in the last 3.5 years. Not one. And that is unbelievable. But that's the truth.
So you think our airspace is safer now?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you look at what was happening in our airspace, pre-1999, and there were a few challenges, like I said, up until 2005. But by the time we left office in 2007, that is the Obasanjo administration, the airspace was in very, very safe. I mean, there were no crashes. After that, there were a few here and there, but certainly better than before. Up until the time that, that the PDP left office, the airspace was relatively safe. Things were going quite well. Today, they're still doing their best because we've put in a lot of things that they have not changed. And the credit for that goes to Adi, the present minister. But these are things that PDP put in place, successive PDP governments, not what he has put in place. And I think that the credit should be shared.